You now tuned in to the Gumptown Podcast. I'm your boy Doug B. We ain't got nothing to talk about, but we got something to talk about. Let's go. Good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 80. I'm your boy Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving this podcast a shot. Today's guest, he's an author, speaker, and activist. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by his story. Let's chop it up with DeCorey Hale. DeCorey, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going great. How about yourself?
I'm glad to hear that. All is well on my end, too. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
Man, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Of course, here to talk about the work you've been doing as an author, speaker, and activist. But before we go there, let's get to know the man behind it all. What's your story?
40 years old, born and raised in the small town of Sylacauga, Alabama. Went to Alabama State University, majored in marketing. After I came back, got a job with Alabama Power. Matter of fact, just got 16 years there yesterday. But I have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, and with the time that I have, the free time that I have, I decided to do other things and just kind of venture off. And so that's where I am now. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
Okay, short and sweet and to the point. Let's talk about your upbringing in Sylacauga. What was that like?
Sylacauga is the country. I can't lie, but I enjoy it. I still enjoy being there. Just learn the value of hard work. My mom was a middle school secretary. My dad worked at the marble quarry, and so he passed in 2000. And so it's just me, my mom, and my sister. Even now, so just did what we had to do. And I was 18 when he passed, and graduated and went to community college. For a couple of years, and then transferred to Alabama State. So, but even though it's been 22 years, since he's been gone, I still carry a lot of those lessons that he instilled in me, and I keep a lot of the work ethic, that I learned from him, and even in that short amount of time that we were together.
And that's dope, man. Keeping his memory alive through his practicing those work ethics and stuff.
That's it.
Those habits. Now, that's dope, man. Let's talk about your time at the Alabama State University. What was the HBCU experience like for you?
Oh man, the Alabama State University, man. Hey, what do they say now? What do young people say? We had a time. We had a good time. But not gonna lie. Once my dad got sick, I stayed close and went to community college, and I just kind of played around. And I tell people now, I tell especially younger people, I tell them now, you go to college for all this stuff, but you still have 2 underlying reasons that people go off to college. One is, to get good grades and get the experience. And 2 is to kind of get away from the same knuckleheads that you were hanging around during high school that were kind of, whether it was a distraction, whether they were bringing you down, whether they were, channeling your focus somewhere else. You try to get away from them. And so I went to community college maybe 10 minutes from my house. And so what happens? I'm still around everybody, I'm still at home, but now I have a little bit more freedom. And so, my grades started to slip a little bit. I was there a little bit longer than I wanted to be. And I remember telling, my mom that I got accepted back in Alabama State University. And she looked at me and she said, well, I'll tell you what. She said, you can go down there playing and doing everything like you were doing up here. But if you, no, she said, go down there. And she said, but if you go down there and you're playing and doing everything that you were doing up here, she said, you're going to come back and you're going to get a job. And I don't want to ever hear another word about college. And at the time, I'm 18 years old. I'm working at, well, no, I was 19. I'm working at Arby's. So in my mind, my small mind, I'm thinking, man, I can't come back and work at Arby's for the rest of my life. So I go down there and I'm on the dean's list every semester. But by the same token, I'm on Dean's List. I'm working. I'm grinding. But I still had time to have. I still made time to have fun. I was in a couple of clubs. Cultural Unity Organization being one. I used to step with Martin Luther King Hall. We had a little step team, and but other than that, I used to hang out. Stayed at the Rose Supper Club. Did my fair share of time there.
Hmm. Right on,
whether
right on.
yeah. Whether that was a smart move or not, I was there, and I made it. I made it out to tell the story. But yeah, I mean, I had a good time, and I encourage anybody, um, give an HBCU a shot because it is more like family. Because I went, I know people. I had classmates from high school that they took the Auburn, Alabama, Troy State, Ole Miss, Georgia routes, and they told me that you were referred to by the last four digits of your social security number, or they may say your last name, but they wrote it down, but they didn't care whether you came or not, and they made it plain.
Mm.
But Alabama State, just like I'm sure it is with other HBCUs, it's like family. So if you miss one class, you lay out, you duck out, you got to work, whatever, they don't care. But if you miss that second one, or for sure if you miss that third one, they calling.
Right.
They got your number from somebody, or they already had your number, and they're calling. Hey, it's just like it's just like an extension of your mom and dad down there. And these professors used to call and be like, "Hey, where are you? When are you coming back? I'm not gonna fail you for any foolishness, because it's one thing to fail, or it's one thing to be lacking because you just can't get the material, or you're just not. But they weren't going to accept, oh man, he's just going to lay out and fail. Nah, they were going to do everything in their power to ensure that you were there. And that's what I love about it, and that's what I loved about the experience, because it was family. They actually did care. And when you know that somebody cares, you're going to put forth your best effort to prove them right, to prove that, you know thank you for taking a chance on me.
Yes, sir. And that's spot on. The HBCU experience that you just described is exactly what it was for me, you, and several others, just that family aspect. And it's like a big melting pot. You got people from Alabama, like yourself and I, people from Midwest, West Coast, all over. We all come together and we become
Oh yeah.
family despite our cultural differences. And like you were saying, in terms of our professors, they were definitely on our case. Like we were more than a number. We was like, hey, like you said, you missed a couple classes. They hitting up your cell phone, like, where you at? Like, what you been
Fact.
doing? And
Yep.
I don't, yeah, and not only that, man, like just that community of family and those friends you build. If you miss a class or something, you have those friends that have those notes for you to catch you up. Like, hey, man, like this is what we talked about in this class. So it was just an overall family aspect, man. And you hit on a very key point, like in terms of the PWIs, because I grew up in the Gump, you grew up in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure growing up, all you heard was Alabama, Auburn. Like HBCUs wasn't even something that was promoted to us, and we ended up at HBCU, and it ended up. I'll speak for me, and I pretty much get what I gained from you ended up being the best decision you made.
Oh yeah. Oh, by far, the best decision I could have ever made.
No doubt. And you graduated in marketing, so you came about that COBA. So you was there with Percy
Ooh,
Vaughn. What
man.
was that like? I barely missed Percy Vaughn when I got into BA in '07. What was Percy
Oh
Vaughn?
man. Hey, you missed the treat, man. You missed the
I did,
treat.
man.
Yes, you missed the treat. Now Dean Vaughn, man, no nonsense. But you knew that he loved you. You knew that he cared. And so when he was coming down in the midst of that lecture that you were getting, you knew, okay, well, he cares. So I can take this chewing out a little bit better, because I know he cares, and he's not just doing it just to do it. But by that same token, full of humor, laughing, joking. I mean, have a good time. But I mean, again, an extension, of your parents or grandparents. We're gonna have a good time until it's time to buckle up, and if I gotta get on your case a little bit, that's what it's gonna be. And you had to respect it.
No doubt. He's definitely revered. And like I said, like when I got into BA, he was retiring and I didn't get the full experience, but I did witness him go up on somebody because they were sagging. He he went
Oh
all the
yeah,
way there
oh
and the dude pulled his pants up. He ain't bucked back at
yeah.
Dean Vaughn. He
Oh yeah.
respected it. Like, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's Dean Vaughn, man. That's Dean Vaughn. You didn't you didn't cross him. Whatever he told you to do, you just did it and kept going.
Yes, sir. No doubt, man. So let's transition over into what you've been doing in the entrepreneurial space. So which one did you get into first? Activism or as an author or speaker? Which one came first?
Well, actually, I got into being an author first. And it's so crazy how it worked out. My oldest daughter is 17 now. And so what happened, I used to write her bedtime stories. We would go, when she was 2, we would go to the library. And most kids and parents, they have it's kind of a war. Hey, I want you to get these, I want you to get this many books. And the kid is like, well, I don't want to get this many books. And a lot of times you compromise in the middle. Usually that compromise is maybe 1 or 2 books. And so with Nyla, she's a little different. We were going and we were picking up 10 books some days. Some days we were picking up 15 books. And, even though she couldn't read, of course, at the time, she loved to hear the story. She loved to kind of imagine that she was there. She loved to see the pages, the illustrations and everything like that. Well, the problem is, as big as Silicaga's children's library is, it's only so big, and there's only so many books that you can have before you start repeating. And so we had got to the point where we had started, borrowing the same books over and over. And so I asked her one day. I said, "Well, hey, would you like for me to write your bedtime stories?" And she was like, "Sure." So I said, okay. So what I did was I would um I would write one story per week. And so I would write one story per week, and in total I wrote 26 stories.
Okay.
And so I would write one story per week, and in total I wrote 26 stories.
Hmm.
And this was 26 completely different stories. It was 26 completely different stories. And so I just kind of settled, for a while, and probably fast forward to maybe 6 years ago. I had a crazy idea. Hey, what if I could turn these stories into books?
Hmm.
You know, and so I got with my mentor, Carol, and she helped me get a publisher. Well, I self-published. Let me take that back. I self-published. She helped me find the illustrator, but the good thing about her was she also, like, she would split the workload. So there were things that she would do on her side, and there were things that I would do on my side. And then, but the things that she would do on her side, she would come back and say, well, hey, this is how I did it. Just in case, for example, one day I wasn't able to, just in case one day she wasn't able to help me out, or if I just decided, hey, I want to do everything by myself, she pretty much gave me the blueprint to it, which I think was cool, because a lot of times, people try to hold on to that information, and they'll say, well, hey, you can come back, but I'll charge you again. But with Carol, she was real cool about it. She was just like, well, hey, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you all the keys right now. So that was cool. And also, a little side note, how I ended up getting into it as well is about 2014. I had a high school friend, reach out to me. He was starting a hip hop website, and so he hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, this is what I'm doing. Can you do the music reviews?" And I was like, "Yeah." So all I did was music review every week, and so I ended up doing that for maybe about 6 months, and a couple of magazines saw it. A couple of smaller magazines have no clue to this day how they saw that, but they saw it, reached out to me, and said, "Well, hey, can you start writing for us?" And so I said, "Well, yeah." So started writing for them. Eventually, caught the eye of the Huffington Post. So the Huffington Post reached out and they were like, "Hey, would you mind freelancing for us a little bit?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so in the midst of this, I'm just thinking, well, why am I not doing anything for myself? And so that's kind of how I got into it. Um, but even going back to the first book, the name of it is Ebenezer the Sneezer. And the way I got to it is because, like I said, my daughter Nyla, we're writing these stories. Like I said, I'd written her 26 different stories, completely different. None of them were series, none of them tied to each other in any way. And so I was writing her stories, but at the same time, she started coming down, like her allergies started really affecting her. And so, she was in pre-K at the time. And so, kids that age, you're looking at 2, 3, 4 year olds. At the time, if it's not a tummy ache, kids don't really understand what it is, at that age. And so what was happening was half of her friends were like, we don't know what this is, so we're not going to fool with you, because her allergies would get to the point where she would go into these coughing and sneezing spells. And sometimes, she'd have to cough it up. And so you can imagine being on the playground and a kid does that just, out of the blue to you, I mean, out of the blue beside you, you're not going to know what to think. And so half of her friends were like, "Yeah, we don't know what this is, so we're not going to be a friend anymore." And the other half was kind of like, "Well, we don't know what this is, but we're going to make fun of it." And so I saw this happening. And so in the midst of writing her bedtime stories, I just slid this one in. I was like, well, what can I do to make it different? So I wrote Ebenezer the Sneezer just like that within a week to kind of bring some levity to the situation and kind of make it something that we could laugh at, just kind of make it familiar and say, hey, it's okay to be different. And that's kind of how, that's kind of the message that I give to that's what I give to the kids when I talk to them. It's okay to be different. It may not be allergies, it may be something different, but it's okay. Because at the end of the day, we're all different. But we have a lot more. We have a lot more in common that will do different. And so that's kind of what I try to use as a teaching tool.
Wow, man, that's a powerful story and just an organic way how you came up with the first book, Ebenezer the Sneezer. And you're right, man, we are all different. And to be honest with you, that's what makes the world a beautiful place, that we all different and we get to learn from each other. Because if we were all the same, it'd be a pretty boring life.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So that's amazing that you were able to create purpose out of that situation your daughter was going through with the allergies and writing the book. So exactly how long did it take you to write that book from cover to cover?
Uh, Man, it. Well, like I said, it took me a week to do the actual story. But as far as going cover to cover, publishing and everything, it took me about 9 months. And the reason it took me 9 months was because it's just funny how technology works. My illustrator also lived in Atlanta, and so I knew that there were certain specifications that I wanted. I wanted my pictures to look a certain way. I wanted the colors to be, the way I wanted them. I wanted all the shapes and all the characters to look how I wanted them. And so we kind of went back and forth. And so this was without me even meeting her. We were just kind of emailing sketches back and forth. And she's an old school illustrator. So, so she gets down with with pencil and paper and the sketch pad, drawing the circles for the knees and the circles for the joints and then drawing the arms out and everything like that. And then she goes in and does the computer work where, you have a lot of illustrators now that just go straight in, they go directly into a program and it's just a computer program, and you can tell the difference. And so that's why I liked what she was doing, because she was just old school, and if she needed to, all it was just a swipe of the eraser. If there was something that I needed to change, she could just erase it and go back and do it. So yeah, so that's why I enjoyed working with her so much. But it took us about 6 months. Just going, like I said, just going back and forth, sharing information. And when I finally got it down to exactly what I wanted, I went in. And during this time, I'd gotten my ISBN, which is my identifier, which is my book identifier, which means that Ebenezer the Sneezer is one of one. It's in the Library of Congress. I had to get it registered for the Library of Congress, so it's there forever. And I also did a barcode. That way, if I do sell, if I did a wholesale to a branch, a big chain store, or if I did it to a mom and pop bookstore, it would scan. They could just scan it, like you would anything else. And so it took about 9 months, but I was pleased with it, and it came out, like I said, exactly like I wanted it to.
And that's what it's all about. It really don't matter how long it took. The fact that you took the idea, put action behind it, and you got it the way you wanted it done. You got it in the Library of Congress, which is dope. Like it's a legit way. So in terms of the next book you end up writing, I want to say it's called the Numbers Ranch. So what
The
was that
numbers.
process like? What
Well,
inspired that? And how long did that process take?
this one took. Let me see. It took about the same amount of time, maybe closer to a year. My youngest daughter is 3. She's about to be 4, and so at the time, well, still now, um, I do just some little part time work on the farm, and she loves going to the farm. I mean, loves it. Has her own little set of bud boots and everything. So we get out there and we ride the Kubota, we ride the tractor, we ride the four wheeler. She gets out there and helps feed the animals, and all that. And at the time, like I said, she's in pre-K now. So she wanted to, learn her letters and learn her numbers and everything like that. And so I was like, well, how can I give her the best of both worlds? Give her the animals that she loves and that she sees all the time, and also give her the numbers that she loves to throw out all the time. And so I was like, well, you know what? The numbers range. And I actually dedicated that one to her, dedicated Ebenezer the Sneezer to Nyla, and dedicated this one to Emerson. Because without either one of those, either without either one of them, the books wouldn't have been possible, because they were my sole motivation for them.
Wow, man, and that's powerful, man. Like a story within a story, writing them, being inspired by your children, and that's something that you can share with them as they get older. Like, hey, this bestseller was inspired. You inspired this. That's cool,
Right.
man. That's really dope,
Yep.
man.
Yep. And that's why, I wanted to make sure that, not only, can I tell them, hey, I dedicated it to you, but it's also in print. It's right there in black and white. This book is dedicated to Nyla. This book is dedicated to Emerson.
And that's what it's all about, man. So you talked about the what inspired the books, how long it took you to write the books. So let me ask you this last portion. So in terms of you having an idea, taking action on it, putting it out there to the world, that takes audacity, man. Aside from your kids, who or what gave you that courage, that audacity to actually publish these books?
Well, it's funny. It's funny how it works, because it's kind of like the principle of osmosis. Everything kind of like comes around, because once I started writing for once I started writing for my friend with his website, and then I started doing magazine writing, and Like it seemed like as soon as I said, well, you know what, I'm gonna be an author. I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna try my hand at this. It's like I looked up one day and all of a sudden I was surrounded by like-minded individuals. And you probably know, you can probably relate to that. It's like as soon as you make up, as soon as you make up your mind that you
Hmm.
want to do something and you start working toward that goal, you'll look up one day and it's not that your old friends are gone, but it's kind of like, the ones that aren't, on the same track with you, they kind of take the back seat for new people to come in and say, well, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. Hey, we're all doing the same thing. And so like, so I take motivation from a lot of places. I take motivation from my mom because, after, when my dad died, it was just her having to take care of me and my sister. Like I said, I take motivation even from my dad because while he was here, I saw him work 12 hours, get off and cut grass and, take care of the house and do everything else he had to do. So there, even my mentor, Carol, I take motivation from her because I've seen her juggle 10 projects, 10 book projects for other people and still be able to get hers done. And that's a lot of work because I know how much goes into one book. So I couldn't imagine juggling 10.
Absolutely, man. So pretty much to sum that up, like everything you said was powerful. It really takes a village in all phases of life, whether you're a child or you're an adult and you had a good village around you. They help inspire you and motivate you, even in this space as an author, man. That's dope.
For sure, for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about your career in activism. So when did you get into that space and what inspired you to get into that space?
Man, you know what? That's one of those things. Like even now, I sit around and I think about it, and I'm like, man, people call me because they need things done, or people call me because somebody referred me to them or them to me, and it's just like, man, how did I get there? So the best way I can remember is probably about 5, 6 years ago. Like right after the books, like I just started noticing people, and I just because I was out there doing school visits, going to churches, going to recreational centers, stuff like that. And so in addition to doing school visits and just reading and talking to the kids, I listened. And so I listened to parents, that said, well, hey, you know, Christmas is coming or this holiday is coming. We have to make tough decisions. Are we gonna have a good meal for Christmas, or are the kids gonna get everything that they want? And this is the parent talking to the teachers, and just kind of venting, about it, and just exasperated by the whole situation. And so my thing was, well, you know what can I do, in my position. Like at the time I was just a children's author. I hadn't even thought about it. And so I got with two of my buddies and we talked about it in August 2016. And I was like, man, you know what? Something's been on my heart. I just really want to give back. And I said, man, there's people out here making some tough decisions. I said, I really want to do 50, I said, I want to give away 50 meals, for Christmas. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't even know who I'm going to give them to, but I want to give out 50 meals for Christmas. And, a lot of times, man, I thank God, I thank God for my circle, because a lot of times we have people that, we think are with us, and they'll do everything in their power to talk us out of it. Man, I don't know. That might be too many people, or how much money is that going to be, or I don't know if I even have the time to help you. But, like I said, my circle, I told those guys, hey, this is what I want to do. They told me when you want to get started. And so that's kind of where we went. And so what we did was we got with a local nonprofit and we told them, hey, this is what we're doing. So what we want you to do is just give us 50 names of 50 families, 50 families that that need something for for the holidays as far as food. Maybe some particular people that that's usually on their list to help every year. And so they gave us 50 families, and it ranged from a single person family, like an older person, to I think the largest family that we had one time was like 11 people. And so what we did was we bought the hams and turkeys ourselves, and we took in donations for all the sides. And so about a week before Christmas, we bagged everything up and we coded everything by number, because when we would get the paper, it would have the name, address, phone number, but it would also have the family size. And so that's kind of what we concentrated on, the family size, and we separated everything that way. And so we knew exactly how much would go into which size bag. So when they would come, instead of throwing a name out there and trying to shuffle through names, we would just yell out, hey, we need a five, or hey, I need a 10, or hey, I need a three. And you just go get that bag, because you know that all the threes had the same amount in it, all the fives had the same amount. If there were, however many 11s were in there, they had the same amount. And so that's kind of how we did it. And we've been doing it for well, this will be the seventh year. And so, along with that, just started getting more involved in the city. Ran for city council, didn't win election, but ended up going to the Commercial Development Authority, which works with small businesses and, also larger chains, your larger restaurant chains and department store chains, to bring out, to bring business to the city of Silicaga. And so, with my marketing background, it's right up my alley. So, so I ended up doing something that I love. I honestly thought that running for city council, I just kind of thought that was my next step after everything that I've done.
Mhm.
But I realized, hey, this isn't where I need to be anyway. Commercial development, that's where I need to be. I'm on the Lions Club. I'm on the board for Silicaga Alliance for Family Enhancement, Habitat for Humanity. I'm on the Tree Commission, and I'm pretty sure it's like two or three more things that I just can't think of right now.
Mm.
But I love it. I love getting out there and helping people. And my motto has always been boots on the ground. I can sit here and tell you, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do. But if I'm not doing it, you know, that's not doing anybody any good.
1000%, man. And like, I commend you for giving back to the community. And like you said, just having your group of guys, group of friends that run with you and they're willing to stand by your side and help you, because it's real easy to show up when you're getting a paycheck for something, but to get people to show
Oh yeah.
up with no paycheck attached, like that just
Oh,
goes to show how that shows their character. And that really, to me, man, that proves that they're really there for you, man. Like they're your real friends. And like you said, man, everybody talks a good game, but when it's time to walk, they'll walk. Only a few show up.
absolutely, absolutely, man. And that's the thing, like, because I've had associates like that, and I call them associates because,
Hmm.
at some point, you have to differentiate friends from associates.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just like, man, they come up with every excuse why they can't help you do this, or they can't help you do that, or man, I don't think we ought to, I don't think we ought to do it this way, or I don't think we ought to do it that way. I don't think we should do it at all. And so, you just kind of get away from them, and you just kind of steer toward the people that will. But, like I said, thank God I have a core group of people that are more than ready, willing, and able to help me out. I can call them today and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. They'll be like, when you want to do it, and that's it.
No doubt,
No,
and that's no doubt.
no,
My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no. You good? I was just gonna say, no questions, no resistance, no excuses. Just hey, when are we gonna work on it? When's the best time? Let's get it.
No doubt, man. Those type of people you want. Like I agree with you wholeheartedly. Those associates, they're the people that come with all the problems and excuses, and the friends are the people that come with the solutions and they solve problems. And hey, man, we got this initiative we need to get done. Let's meet on Saturday at 8 a.m. and they there. And you don't have to remind them 5 or 6 times. You just put it out there one time and they in there, man. Like those are the type of people that
Exactly.
you want to run with for life.
Exactly. Oh, let me also give a shout out to one of my college classmates too. Brian Smith, Blue. He runs the Blue Heart Foundation 334 in Montgomery. Couple let me see, maybe about 3 years ago, he reached out. Like we always stayed in contact even after school, but he started doing a back to school giveaway in Montgomery at Eastdale. And so I would just go down there and just kind of hang out and pass stuff out, just help him out. And then I think the second year I went down there, I donated some books. And last year I went down and I, brought a bunch of stuff. Last year he was like, man, you know what? Let's bring it to Silicaga, because what he does is he dedicates all his school giveaways to someone, to a child that died of, at an early age of, whatever kind of childhood disease that affected him. He dedicates it to that child. So I think he does one in Montgomery. He's done one in, I think he does one in Dothan, maybe one in Tuscaloosa, and he added Silicaga last year. And so we're actually getting together. We're actually about to get together next week and start planning, for this one. But he's another good one. If I call him, even though he's in Montgomery, I'm in Silicaga, or if he calls me, you know, the other person coming running. Whoever calls who, the other person is gonna come running. No, no hesitation. No, man, just give me till tomorrow or give me next week. Nah, man, we coming right then. So, so just wanted to give him, just want to give him a shout out for everything that he's doing down there as well.
Oh, no doubt, man. Yeah, I know Blue, man. We went to Alabama State. We was at the Alabama State University around the same
Yeah,
time, and
yes, sir.
he's been about that activist life, man. He always
Oh yeah,
been giving back to the community. Like before it was a popular thing, man. Like
right.
he was always just out here, boots on the ground, like you said earlier, man. Yeah, Blue, good people, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, and like you said, that was before. What I mean? That was before, getting out and doing stuff was a thing.
Hmm.
He and that's how that's how when you're in good company. When
Hmm.
people are doing stuff, that may not be the popular thing, it may not be the end thing, and they know they're not going to get anything from it because just being honest, charity work is a thankless job.
Hmm.
You do it, and you know you don't you don't do it because people are going, worship you and bow down to you and say, "Oh, thank you so much because you did this and this." No, that's not why you do it. You do it because people truly need help, and even with the food drive that I do, I just sat back one day and I just kept thinking, man, there's something I want to do, something I want to do. I want to give back, and I looked at a couple of charities. But then you look at the charity and nonprofit. You go back and you do a little research on them, and you realize what they're making. What they're taking in, which is good. But then you look and see what the CEO and the board is taking in, and you're like, man, you know what? That money could be going to help somebody else. Because I think I read one year. I think it was the year that I got started. That the CEO of, well, the chairman of the Salvation Army was. I think they were making like $30 million a year, and I'm like,
Yeah.
$30 million, man. You know how many people you could feed with $30 million,
Right.
or house, you know. And so my thing was, okay, I'm not gonna give to any charity. I'm not giving to any nonprofit. I'm going to do my own thing. That way, because I thought about it, I'm just like, well, everybody's out there ringing the bells at Walmart every Christmas. Okay, you pool all this money together, and then this money goes to wherever it goes, whether it's corporate, headquarters, whatever, and then they disperse it back out. So of course, the bigger cities are gonna get the lion's share, and the smaller cities are gonna kind of get, whatever is divided upon them. I live in a city of 12,000 people. So I know that of all this money that Silicaga probably raised just off changing Walmart, we're probably gonna get back a fraction of that. So not nearly enough to help anybody out in a meaningful way, maybe just through the holiday, but at least with the food drive that we organized, at least I have that ham in my hand. I have that bag of groceries in my hand and I can physically give it to somebody. I know exactly where it's going. As opposed to when you give to charity, you don't know who's getting that money. It could be
Right.
somebody in California getting your money, or it could be somebody in Georgia or in New York, and you still going around and you still seeing the same problems around here with homelessness or poverty or something like that. And it's just like, well, at least this way, I know for a fact that I'm helping somebody because I'm actually looking at it with my two eyes.
Right. And that's, to be honest with you, like that's the best way to do it. Like you just said, you got boots on the ground, you out there touching the people, so you know exactly what those hams and turkeys and those dinners are going to, because Salvation Army, Goodwill, yeah, they some crooks, man. I mean, they making
Yeah,
millions of dollars, man, and you just look around, you like, okay, this should be like half of that should be forfeited for the people, for the betterment of the people. Like, what you doing making 30 million? I mean, I ain't counting no pockets,
right.
but the organization I thought was for helping the people, but it's like
Yep,
they fattening their own pockets now.
absolutely.
Cool, man. But nah, man, good stuff with the activist work and everything you've done and will continue to do. And so let's talk about your time as a speaker. What got you into public speaking?
Uh, the being an author, because there was a time, and it's so crazy because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was just telling them how much of a phobia I had of public speaking. Like I could be at church. I'll use this as an example. I could be at church talking to 5 or 6 people in a group, you know. And I know everybody at church. I could be talking to 5 or 6 people. We're just all standing around having an informal conversation. And I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'm cracking, I'm doing this and I'm getting everything out. But as soon as you put those same 5 or 6 people, in a pew and put me at the podium, it was something about formalizing it, and I would get nervous and I would start stammering and stuttering, hands sweating, everything, and it was just weird and it's just hard to explain why. And so, being a children's author, in a way, it kind of eased me into it because I never really had to get up and do a formal speech, not for the first maybe 2 years. I would just go and do school visits. I'll read to the kids and I would just take questions. We just do a little question and answer. And so what I found out though, was I was actually strengthening myself and I was bringing down that guard I was bringing down that fear of public speaking and I didn't even realize it because the more I did it, because there was a time pre-COVID that I was in a school, 3 or 4 days a week. And so it was like second nature. But then what I realized too is my book is for pre-K till about the second grade. But then I realized, okay, well, this middle school is reaching out. They want me to come talk. High school is coming. High school is reaching out for me to come to the school. I know I'm not, I know they don't want me to read Ebenezer the Sneezer. So now they want me to actually talk to them. And so now I found that it is easier for me to do it. I guess because my thing is if you can get a complete conversation out over a pre-K student or over a kindergartner, you can talk through anything. because those little jokers will ask you questions about anything. They don't care that you're talking. It's just whatever. If they're thinking about it and it's in the middle of what you're talking about, they're gonna ask you right then. And so you have to stop. You learn patience. You have to stop, and you have to come back to them, and then you have. Then the trick is you have to come back and remember what you were talking about.
Mhm. Man, that's so cool, man. So it sounds like you being an author, that that gift of yours made room for your other gifts, the activism
Right.
and being a public speaker. And that's cool. And you just never know where life gonna lead you. Like you just said, like you used to be nervous, and public speaking is most people's top fears. Like it's a top fear for a lot of people, man. So the fact that you were able to find that gift after releasing the book and getting that rocking and rolling, man, that's dope, man. Like I love to hear people's processing how they go from A to Z, man. And you went from being nervous, being able to speak. You're an author, an activist, making it do what it do. So let's talk about vision. What are your short term and long term goals in the entrepreneurial space and all of your endeavors?
Well, let me see. Short term, I'm actually working. Actually working on the third book now, which will be based on my son, Linux, and it'll be. It's going to be called Linux's Day Out, and it's going to be kind of an adventure book for him that will deal with his big imagination. So we're going, it's going to be. Still not sure exactly where it's going to take place, but that's what I'm working on. And I'm matter of fact, to I'm sending it off to the illustrator next month. So that's kind of my short term goal. I really want to re-release the Numbers Ranch, and the reason is because when I released it, it was in 2020. I think we were in the middle of COVID. I had just got finished running for city council, and I remember clear as day. I completed it in March of 2020, but numbers had started going up, and everybody was quarantined again. And so I ended up just keeping it on the, I just ended up kind of keeping it on the back burner. And so I kept it. And then December, I was like, man, you know what? I'm just sitting here looking at this thing. Let me just put it out. And it was an impulse decision. And I remember it was freezing cold that day. I think it was 2 weeks before Christmas. It was freezing cold that day. Um, you see, like I said, the COVID numbers were up. It was raining, and so I think I maybe had at the book signing, I maybe had 30 people there, and probably 20 of them were family, just because it was, just because it was bad timing. And and it's done okay, but I feel like with everything kind of opening back up now, I feel like now is the time to reintroduce it, because I mean, because there are a lot of people that don't even realize I've written two books until I tell them, and they sure can't tell you the names of them. Well, the name of the second book. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Once I release this book next month, just go back and re-release the Numbers Ranch.
Okay.
Um, long term, long term is, to become a best-selling author, and possibly just do it. Possibly just do this full time. Because like I said, I work for Alabama Power, but my schedule allows me to be able to do school visits 3 or 4 days out of the week. So so I'm thankful for that. But I do eventually want to get to a point where I can do motivational speaking, and just get out there and read my books and sell my books, and because I think our kids need that.
Right.
Not just from me, but other black entrepreneurs, other black authors, other black speakers, black creatives in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't see that. And I even tell the kids when I talk to them, I make it a point to tell them, y'all look at me. Because when I go into a school, I'm in there in some ripped jeans and whatever sneakers I have on, a t-shirt, and and a snapback.
Mm.
You probably see some pictures, but that's how I show up to the school. I'm not there in a suit and tie because I've lost your interest as soon as I walk in with a suit and tie on because you don't care. You already have as a kid they have a preconceived notion about what I'm gonna talk about, and it's probably and they probably say it's gonna be boring, and I get that. So I come in, I dress like I normally would, and and I tell them, I say, hey, look at me. I'm a big black dude with a big beard and tattoos all up and down my arms, but I'm a children's author because that's what I wanted to do. And you can be whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do because society tends to try to dictate to us what we're going to be. Society tells us, well, hey, you're already black, so that's a mark against you. Now you got all these tattoos. You got your hair you have your hair looking like this. You have these piercings. You speak like this. Even you're friends with this person, so this is what you're gonna be. And I tell them, nope, nope. You're gonna be what you want to be. You're gonna do what you want to do, regardless of all of the external things. You're gonna do what you want to do, and you're gonna be what you want to be. And nobody's gonna make that up in their mind for them. And that's what I try to. That's the point that I try to reiterate as much as I can. Do what you want to do. Be what you want to be.
Absolutely, man. Representation matters. Like I love the fact that you go into those schools being yourself, not going in there with that shirt and tie on. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but like
Right.
kids need to know that you don't have to look a certain way to be successful. You can be a creator and have tattoos. You can be a
Mm-hmm.
creator and be black. And you're right, society has definitely conditioned us that we're only good enough to be athletes and entertainers, and that's just narrow-minded. So the kids need to see people like yourself and other black creatives that are doing different things because there's so many ways to make an impact and influence in this world outside of being an athlete or an entertainer. So that's dope that you're doing that for the kids and those goals that you named. I have no doubt you'll make them all come to fruition at the trajectory you're going for real.
And I appreciate it, bro. I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
I'm just one man trying to do his part.
No doubt, man. No doubt. As we conclude the podcast, I want to ask the $1 million question. I started this podcast to highlight the greatness connected with Montgomery, whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life. You being here at the Alabama State University, I want to ask you, what do you appreciate the most about the Gump?
Man, just taking me in because they didn't have to. It's I mean, just like everywhere else, you have your clicks and you have your places to go, your places not to go. But thank God I was able to go wherever I wanted to go, wherever I needed to go. I mean, I knew, but at the same time I knew where to go, where not to go at what time. But man, Montgomery brought me in, it was a second home to me and they didn't have to do it. I still have a lot of friendships down there, and I still try to get down there at least a couple of times out the month and just go hang out. A lot of times I just go down there and I just say, man, you know what? We just take a day and I'm just gonna hang out in the Gump and we just gonna chill. If hopefully I can catch up with some of the old friends and we just gonna have a good time and just reminisce on what we used to do and how it used to be. So I'm real thankful. I'm real thankful for Montgomery for taking the chance on me and loving me like one of their own.
Yes, sir. Powerful stuff. So how can the people connect with you, Corey? What are your social media handles and website?
My social media, I have two pages on Facebook. Well, actually, I have three pages on Facebook. I have DeCorey Hale, I have author DeCorey Hale, and then I have what is that third page? Community activist DeCorey Hale. No, community organizer DeCorey Hale. They're on Facebook. Instagram is DCO_H. I have a Twitter, but I don't really fool with it to the point that I don't even know the name of it. I don't even know my handle right now.
That's all
Um,
good.
And of course, my website is www.DeCoreyHale.com.
Yes, sir. And of course, I'll put all of this information in the description of the episode. Hey, DeCorey, thanks again for the conversation, man. I really appreciate you.
Man, I thank you for having me, man. It's been a blessing, bro.
Yes, sir. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumptown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Gone. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. Until next time.